15 minutes. That's all that stood between 3 years of sleepless nights and the moment the world was supposed to change. I stood at the glass wall of our command center, looking down at the empty city streets. Outside, it was just another quiet night, but inside this room, the air was electric. The glow of 50 monitors painted the walls in shifting shades of blue and white. We were about to launch Ayakçı. This wasn't just about writing code for me, it was about connection. We had spent months orchestrating multimedia marketing campaigns, dropping promotional video reels across every local channel just to recruit the best tradespeople in the city. Plumbers, electricians, custom glass balcony installers, home insulation experts, we brought them all into one ecosystem. Customers and service providers finally meeting on a single seamless screen. The Angular front end was polished to absolute perfection. The servers were primed. We were exactly 15 minutes away from flipping the switch and opening the gates to 100,000 pre-registered users. I took a deep breath, adjusting my collar. My heart was beating a steady, heavy rhythm against my ribs. I looked over at my lead developer. He was staring intensely at a massive dashboard tracking our API infrastructure and server health. When I asked him how we were looking, he didn't even blink. He just kept typing, assuring me we were green across the board. The load balancers were spun up, database clusters were synchronized, CPU usage was hovering at a comfortable 4%. We were ready. All those promotional reels had done their job, and I knew we were going to get hit with a massive traffic spike the second the clock struck midnight. I wanted to make sure the app wouldn't even flinch. My lead developer just smiled and told me the architecture was built to scale dynamically. Let them come, he said. I turned back to the window, letting myself imagine tomorrow morning. The App Store performance metrics going through the roof. The commercial analytics finally turning from wild projections into real, hard profit margins. And then the room changed color. It was subtle at first, a flicker on the edge of my vision. I turned around. The main dashboard, the one that had been painting the room in a calm, steady blue, violently flashed yellow, and then, a split second later, it turned a deep, blinding crimson red. My lead developer's voice cracked the silence. Panic. Pure, unadulterated panic. I rushed over to his desk, leaning hard over his shoulder, demanding to know what was happening. I thought it was early traffic, maybe a leaked Deans, but he was typing frantically, his breathing shallow. He pointed to the disk ILO metrics. It wasn't a read spike. It was a massive write and delete command. Someone was inside the primary Scale Server Enterprise Edition cluster. My blood ran completely cold. The database, the very heart of Ayakçı, every single tradesperson profile, every customer credential, every geographical coordinate we had mapped over the last 2 years was in there. I shouted at him to cut the external connections, to firewall it immediately. But he couldn't. He looked at me, terrified, and said the intrusion wasn't coming from the outside. It wasn't bouncing off the firewall. It was coming from inside our own network. Someone was using an administrative token to run a cascading drop table script. They were wiping the database, 7 minutes to launch. If we went live with a wiped database, the Angular front end would just render a dead screen. It would be over before it even began. I screamed at him to stop the script, to kill the token. But the attacker was smart. They had disguised the execution script within our own Go microservices. The architecture was doing exactly what it was programmed to do. It was distributing the workload. The script was cloning itself across the nodes. My developer yelled that if he shut down the master node, the backups would automatically execute the purge. I stared at the cascading lines of red text reflecting in his glasses. Years of work, the local campaigns, the endless sleepless nights, all of it dissolving into digital ash because of a few lines of malicious code. It had to be a competitor. We were about to monopolize the local services market, and someone decided it was cheaper to burn our house down than to build a better one. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a desperate whisper. Manual override, I told him. We isolate the database from the microservices. We sever the API gateway completely. He thought I was insane. Severing the API gateway meant the app would go completely dark. We wouldn't be able to reboot the handshake protocols in time for midnight. We would miss the launch window entirely. If they finish dropping those tables, I roared, there won't be an app to launch. Sever the gateway. Slammed his fingers onto the keyboard, executing the manual override, rerouting all internal traffic to a sandbox environment. The seconds dragged like hours. The red flashing on the screen stuttered. The CPU usage chart, which had spiked to 99%, suddenly plummeted. The purge script hit the severed connection and violently crashed out, generating a massive cascade of error logs. Silence fell over the room. The only sound was our ragged breathing. 4 minutes to midnight. The developer wiped his forehead. It stopped. The core tables for user profiles and service listings were intact. We had lost some localized cache data, but the foundation was alive. We survived the hit. Who did it? I asked, my voice ice cold. I ordered him to trace that admin token right now. He pulled up the authentication logs. The screen rendered a block of JSON data. He highlighted the user ID attached to the malicious script. I watched all the blood drain from his face. It was token ID04, the marketing director's credentials. The realization hit me like a physical blow. The marketing director, the guy who orchestrated our video reels, the guy who had administrative access to upload the massive lists of recruited tradespeople directly into the database. He wasn't a coder. He didn't write that Go script. He was just the mule. A competitor bought him out, handed him a flash drive, and told him to plug it into the internal network before he left the office tonight. Corporate espionage. In my own company. I didn't have time to be angry. I ordered all his access revoked. I locked out every single account that didn't belong to me or my lead developer. 3 minutes to midnight, I looked at the developer. Can you relink the API gateway to the Angular front end? He told me he had to rebuild the handshake protocol from scratch. The load balancers were going to be completely blind for at least 60 seconds. If the traffic hit while the gateway was initializing, the servers would panic and crash naturally. Then do it faster, I barked. 2 minutes. I paced the room like a caged animal. I looked out the window. Down in those streets were mechanics, cleaners, glass installers, and customers who were waiting for Ayakçı to go live. They were counting on us. I refused to let a bought-out trader take this away from them. 60 seconds, I yelled. He was frantically injecting the new routing tables into the Scale server. The handshake initiated. The gateway was authenticating. 30 seconds. Suddenly, the screens in front of us went completely black. A terrifying absolute darkness. My heart stopped. Had we lost? Did the script trigger a secondary failsafe? 10 seconds. It's booting, he screamed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Midnight. For one ruthless, agonizing second, the world stopped spinning. The screens remained pitch black. I held my breath, gripping the edge of the desk so hard my knuckles turned white. And then, a spark. A single line of green text flashed across the terminal. API connection established. Then the entire dashboard exploded into life. Not red, not yellow. A brilliant, blinding, beautiful green. The traffic graphs on the screen immediately shot upward like a rocket. 1,000 active users. 10,000, 50,000. My developer let out a hysterical laugh, overwhelmed with relief, tears in his eyes. The queries were resolving perfectly. The tradesman profiles were loading. The map coordinates were syncing. Ayakçı was live. I exhaled, feeling a weight I didn't know I was carrying finally lift off my shoulders. I looked at the surging numbers. We didn't just survive an assassination attempt, we launched a revolution. Tomorrow, there would be lawyers, police, and a very uncomfortable conversation with a former marketing director. But right now, we own the city. I placed a hand on my developer's shoulder, staring at the endless stream of successful connections. Great work, I whispered. Now let's change the world.